Welcome to the Level Up Artist Podcast. We're your hosts, Adriana M.A. and
Jackie Sanders. We are two art professionals sharing forth the advice and business lessons we have learned along our creative journeys.
we talk to artists, leaders, and art professionals to demystify the creative process and discover new ways to succeed as a career-minded artist.
If you find value in these conversations, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you will be notified when we drop a new episode every Tuesday.
So, welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be diving right into part 2 of our conversation with Bethany and Lauren. So, on the earlier episode, we focused on the CEO mindset to run and grow a mural business. And then on this episode, we continue our conversation to discuss the Rooted Mural Conference taking place in January. Enjoy!
I am so excited about one, just being able to share this conversation with all of the artists that we know and our listeners, because even just in this conversation, there have been so many amazing gems, Bethany, which makes me even more excited about the Rooted Conference coming up as an incredible opportunity for female artists to come together, learn from each other, and as a larger community. So, can you tell us a bit more about this conference and what inspired you to create it?
Yes. Ugh, I just got the goosebumps thinking about it. Like that's how special this is to me. Um, so like I mentioned, September of 2022, I went full time, month one, bought a new planner. I'd always like lived by my Outlook calendar, and I was like, oh, so I don't have Outlook anymore. So I guess I have to be a paper planner girl, which is weird. So I bought one. And I have it sitting next to me at all times. And in the very back pages of this planner in November of 2022, I started making notes for a female muralist community where I outlined what I wanted it to look like, what would be valuable, and it also includes, at that point, 21 Instagram handles of women that I had been following regularly, engaging with in private messages, who it literally says like female murals community, who, colon, and then like 21 women. I was like, I'm going to invite these women first. Like, these are who I think could be in this community. And this is also on this page where I named it Rooted. And so November 2022, here we are, that literally 23 months ago, and it's now becoming a reality. So it's really special. I wanted to create an online virtual environment where a woman could essentially walk into a room, raise her hand, and ask a question, and her question is answered by, if not multiple women, at least one. Whereas right now, Instagram's great. It has its benefits, and it brings a lot of people together that otherwise you wouldn't connect to. Hello, look at this podcast. This lineup. However, if you're looking for something specific or a question to a unique situation, or you're wanting to level up in, how would I ever even attempt a swing stage mural, or what about, articulating boom lift, or I need really opaque gold paint, so I'm not painting 10 coats. I just want to be able to paint 2 coats. Does anybody use a very high sheen gold metallic paint? Like, I don't care what the question is. I want there to be a space where you can ask the question and you get an answer, and you didn't have to know which person was going to have your answer. And because that's what I was doing. I was building this tribe for myself and these women around me, but I was the glue. They weren't connecting with each other. It was just tons of private messages, me with other women. And I was like, this is really inefficient. And I really wish there was a community where this was just done for you. You could join something where other women wanted to see each other be successful, because her win is your win. And the more murals we get on this planet, the more demand there will be, and the more opportunity all of us will have. So let's help each other continue to level up. And so that's where the dream was born. And it really is, man, it's so essential. It's just so essential to have a space where we are growing together and we're constantly pushing each other. And having women around you that you trust, even if you don't know them very well, but you know that they're part of this community and there's this fiber that connects you all, even if you've never met in person or don't know anything about them personally. You just know, like, if they're a part of this, they want to see each other win. And
Mhm.
the ability to be vulnerable and authentic and say, like, hey, ladies, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, that imposter syndrome is starting to creep in today. And yeah, I've been busy and successful, but like, why? Like, for instance, y'all keep saying that I have like a lot of gold nuggets that I've said this time up. Like, honestly, like that's awesome. I'm glad you did, but like I did not know that, like that I had that to offer. And coming into this, like I hope I can say anything that's valuable on this podcast. I don't really know. It's just me. And like here I am just literally spitballing and it's
Mhm.
adding value to you. Or like the reel I posted this morning that's been in my drafts for 3.5 months because I thought people would think it was stupid. And I almost deleted the draft completely. And I was thinking about you, Adriana, when you weren't posting your drafts and I challenged you to post last week and I finally posted this week and it popped off. And I'm like, I'm an idiot. I should have posted this 3.5 months ago.
Don't you love when that happens? I'm doing that with a couple of mine on social
I
media.
just gotta get
So
out
if
of our
people are like, this
head.
is amazing. I'm like, I literally made this 6 months ago.
I know.
Cool.
But we
Great.
Just
just have to
sitting
get
in the
out of our
drafts
head.
folder.
Yes. You have to get out of
Yeah.
your head, and
And
there's no better place to do that than in community. And I have a couple quotes from this amazing speaker that I saw. Her name's Emily Ann Page. She said the antidote to imposter syndrome is authenticity and connection, and it is so true. And so, yeah, that's why I was inspired to create this, and it didn't exist, so why not me?
yeah. Oh, I love that. I think a lot of us muralists need a shirt that says that. You need a mural. Why not me? I just walk into businesses. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. Okay, anyways,
I
that's a
love it.
little yeah, yeah, a little bold. Okay, turning it to you for a moment, Lauren. Um, why do you think community building is so important for women and the mural business? And how do you think this conference, Rooted, can help create these meaningful relationships?
When Bethany was just speaking, the word that was resonating in my head, um, like beyond authenticity and beyond connection, I think that there is accountability when it comes to community. And it is that, like, honestly, we're probably going to be attracting a lot of people who are in the solopreneur space who want to achieve these um more like I wanted to say bigger and better, but not necessarily bigger and better, but just like different and evolved goals. And when we were talking about Rooted, we weren't necessarily saying that we're going to take you from A to Z, but instead we're going to create this beautiful level playing field where everyone is welcomed. And it's this transparent space that on social media, we all have that veil of, oh, but I'm supposed to show up a certain way, or I'm supposed to say a certain thing, or whatever it is. Creating community and what Rooted is focused on is like it's a safe space to show up where you're at in your life. Um, and that there's really just an opportunity for everyone to connect and have a friend, a woman, a sister, whatever it is, be there for you, rooting you on in your journey. And I think that that is so needed. It really is. And I completely agree, at least from my perspective with Rosemont Lane, there was so many times where it was just these one-on-one conversations in the DMs. And once you get together, especially in real life, um, there's just this like bigger, deeper connection of the reality of it all. And who doesn't want to live life in that shared experience and to have those real connections? So I'm very excited what Rooted is going to bring and already is bringing. The conversations just feel more true and more needed than what we have right now on social media, which is that one-on-one. So
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Really getting into the heart of what those core questions are and lifting each other up is, I think,
Yeah.
definitely a sentiment everyone can get behind.
Yeah.
So Bethany, can you actually give us an overview of what attendees can expect to learn from the professional speakers that you have in panel discussions?
Yes, absolutely. And before I even give a description on the 6 speakers we have, I want to say like the intent behind why I chose these speakers. And I knew, well, let me say it this way. There are a million hats you have to wear as a solopreneur, as an artist, as a creative, as an entrepreneur. There's so many hats you have to wear. You're not going to be good at all of them. And the one area that I think all of us thrive in, that is our zone of genius, it is the reason that we even attempted to do this full time, is the art, right? So, Rooted is not going to be a space where you come here to, at least the official Rooted conference will not be about how to paint, how to do certain techniques. It is not going to be on the art. There are wonderful resources and other artists who have their masterminds and who have their, mentorship programs on how to paint in their style and techniques and how to broaden your skills in an art standpoint. That is not Rooted, but I'm going to totally cheer on, promote, and put a spotlight on the women that are doing that. But that's not what Rooted official conference and content in the community is going to be providing. I really want to pour into all the other hats that you have to wear that are something that you're not good at, that you don't like, that robs you a lot of time and joy, that keeps you from the things you love. Because if I can make it to where you feel empowered and educated to do something better or more efficiently, or leverage tools that exist that you aren't using currently, if I can do those things, then naturally you're going to be happier, more fulfilled, and more successful doing what you love, and have the bandwidth and desire to go and grow your artistic skills, because you're going to have time to just create. So that's my intent behind the speaker lineup, and why I was really intentional before I reached out to anyone on the speaking lineup. It's like, okay, we're not going to talk about painting. We're not. So on that, on to the speakers. First person is Lauren Hom. She is our keynote speaker. So if you are a lettering artist or, she has so many different avenues and career paths that are just, she's just followed her passion, like completely thrown caution to the wind, followed her passion, has created art for the sake of creating art. And those are the passion projects that have led her to have a very successful, very multifaceted creative career. And I know that she is very well, regarded in the creative community. So I asked her to come and speak to us on how to build a creative career you love. Basically, to be able to, for another visual, like build a boat you actually want to sail. Like, we might be so busy building this boat and you're just like, you're in it, and you're just like, you got nails and wood and hammers and whatever all around you, and you're painting it, and then it comes time, you're like, cool, it's ready to go. I can sail it now. It's ready for the water. And you're like, what is this? Like, I don't know. Like, this isn't even me. Like, I want to help artists and creatives build a boat they actually want to be in, like build a career you actually want to be pouring your time, effort, energy, money, blood, sweat, tears into. So I think she does that extremely well by following her passion and like just letting that guide her career. So she is just amazing human. And I cold emailed her to see if she would be a speaker, and absolutely lost my mind when she responded to the email. And then we met on a Zoom call. And then when she, after the Zoom call, agreed to come, it was just like, holy cow, this just like totally leveled up the conference and was such a cool win that, only made me more motivated to deliver something where everyone who shows up for this conference is like, are you kidding me? I would have paid 5 times that to go. I want it to be like, that was so worth every single penny. Do it again, sign me up for next year. Like, I want there to be just this amazing, I exceeded all expectations, blew your mind with what we're delivering. And there's so many little things that we're doing. So she is one of those. The other person I have is Rachel Kennedy, and she is a consultant in marketing and branding. And so she is going to be working with us on building our personal brand and attracting the right clients. So how do you show up online? How do you show up on social media? And are you even attracting the right clients? Are they able to find you? And so that's going to come with very interactive worksheets and like step-by-step things that you will leave with resources on how to learn from her session, but then also continue to implement things to build a better brand for your business. I have a licensed professional counselor who's going to be coming. Her name's Alyssa Booth, and she's going to be talking about navigating the emotional journey of business ownership. Whether you are just, it doesn't matter whether you're a spouse or a partner or a mom, or it doesn't matter. We all have relationships outside of our business. And because we're pursuing something we're passionate about, we have the ability to neglect self-care and neglect the care of those around us for the sake of doing what we love, because then we don't even realize we're doing it. I am a professed workaholic. That is me. She is I. This session is because I need it. And so just how to navigate that journey. We have Dawn, who is all about going from tech overwhelm to tech empowerment and leveraging tech and platforms and software and different things. She's well versed in literally every tech platform you could possibly imagine, but they're going to be very honed in and leveraging it to do more of what you love. And sometimes, yes, you do need to learn and you do need to invest into a tech platform, and you need to invest in certain things that will help you scale. And I'm very excited for her session. We also have one I'm very excited. Well, I'm excited about all these, but one who it's adorable because she's like, I don't think anybody's going to want to hear me speak. People are going to fall asleep in my session. Like, I like what I do, but there's no way that they're going to want. And I'm like, you have no idea how you're going to eat up your content. And so she is going to be talking to us about business formation and contracts. Hello, lawyer, talking about contracts. How can we protect ourselves? How can we make sure that we are putting things in place in writing? Oh my goodness. I mean, I know this is a controversial topic, and there are some individuals who are like, I've never had a contract, and they've been painting murals for a really long time. I think that's okay. That's okay. All I will say is there is something, it does not have to be complex. It doesn't have to be lawyer jargon. It doesn't have to be anything crazy at all. So I want to like completely blow that out of the water, and that's what she's going to do. It makes your client conversation so easy. So easy.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you been in a situation where you finished the job and mid-design, because the client needed something and you even knew like, oh, well, this change right here will make the design so much better. But guess what? That's a different level of complexity. That just added on time, money, energy, resources, but you don't know how to say anything. So you end up doing the job for less than what you're worth. Or things get complicated and you don't have a contract, so you just did 10 revisions for this client. Having a very, 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 very basic piece of paper, it seems overwhelming, but it will make your life so much easier, and it will take away the ick conversations where you don't even have to have the ick conversations, the ones that make you uncomfortable. You're like, oh my gosh, I feel slimy. No, you won't, because just like, per the contracts, this is your last revision. Like, it's so, you don't like say anything. It's just like, they've already signed it. Yeah. And so anyways, soapbox for me, but I get it that it's not something that everybody necessarily wants to have, but I think that's because they have an idea in their mind of what it's supposed to be. And yeah, we're going to demystify that.
Yeah. I love that, especially from to your point, contracts can be that thing that so many artists are like, I know I need to have one, but I'm intimidated by them, and
Yes.
therefore I feel even more intimidated asking someone else
Yes.
to sign it. Where,
Absolutely.
yeah, it really is just an outline of future conversations. Of like, what
Yes.
great things would there be to have talked about at
Hmm.
any point in this process? Let's
Yes.
just have that conversation up front or
Yep.
have an outline for that conversation to go.
Right. Absolutely.
Amazing.
I mean, so I hired a contractor to come paint the walls of my house, right? People are like, "What, you hired me?" Yes, because they're cheaper than me. Like, so yes, I did hire someone else to do it. But oh my gosh, it was such an ordeal. Obviously, no contract in place. They're super informal, like, just winging it here. And 4 days into them already putting paint on the wall, he comes to me and he's like, "So I totally forgot. I only quoted you for one coat of paint, not two." And I'm thinking to myself, like, who? Why? No, that's not how it works. You're just using this as a ploy to guilt me to pay you more money for more.
Mhm.
No, and I don't care if I'm sorry, Bear. I love your paint products, and y'all claim to have one coat. No, no, nothing is a perfect one coat. It doesn't work that way. So, anyways, it's things like that from a client standpoint. Oh, the amount of like just peace you have hiring someone, you instantly are going to be willing to pay them more money because you know that they're not going to change something on you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
just more professional. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to make it very simple. And when you get taken advantage of and something like makes you have like this gut feeling when you finish a job, you're like, I wish I would have had a way to like protect myself from that. You literally add a sentence in your contract. It's very
Oh
simple.
yeah.
You're like, oh, that won't happen again.
I
Done.
revise my contract almost after every single job.
Same, same. That template
So
changes all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that we're probably gonna have like a 50-50 split of those who use contracts and those that don't. And I think that's amazing because I think that there is there are objections to using some that we are going to be able to overcome very easily. So
Oh yeah.
last but certainly not least is our title sponsor, which is Zebra Paintbrushes. So yes, I'm so excited. This is a family-owned company for those that don't know this. All the more reason to support them. So their dad invented the Open It tool, which is definitely an essential in your mural kit and in your art studio. Dad invented that. Then they had a mission to start making paintbrushes, but not just a standard generic paintbrush, but to make paintbrushes that are truly engineered and designed for a very specific purpose. So not a one size fits all paintbrush, but something that has a very unique application style, process, and purpose. And so now they have a large arsenal of mural brushes or paint brushes that muralists are obsessing over because it's able to accomplish so much with a different level of quality than anything else on the market. So they are a title sponsor. There's going to be a ton of Zebra giveaways and swag and free brushes. And we're going to have some really fun, hands-on experimenting and playing around. I think they're even going to bring some brushes that are not even out yet so that we can play around with
Yes.
things that are in prototype. Also going to be able to talk through what sets them apart and what goes into it. They literally want to hear from everyone, what are the brushes that we don't have yet? And I would imagine that by Rooted Conference in 2026, there will be brushes that have been invented, created, and engineered that came from the brainstorming session that's going to take place at Rooted. So they are just so eager. I've been repping Rooted, I'm sorry, Rooted. Hey, I've been repping Zebra since the very beginning. Like I just found their stuff. I loved it before I knew like even how to do a collaboration post. Like I just was always using them. And it just again started the natural business conversation in me when I posted something and I tagged them or like said something and they commented back. And I was just like, started a conversation with them. That was way before they started promoting murals and
Oh yeah.
muralists and attaching and going to that community. I even was on a podcast with them. That was like a year and a half ago. And so they used to have,
Nice.
they didn't even do the podcast anymore. So Like it truly, like I've been with them for people like, how did you like get them to do this? I'm like, I've been jokingly like an honorary employee for a while, like giving them like, here's like some ideas, like the Muralist Monday tip. That was me. I was like, hey, you should do,
Yeah.
Muralist Monday and start doing shout outs. If you really were wanting to engage the mural community, you need to start doing posts that highlight them. They're going to share it to their community. So it's
Right.
been an amazing, amazing team to work with. And it's run, the one sister is the engineer and the inventor of the brushes, and the other sister is the one behind sales and business and the one behind the screen, like making everything happen on the business side. And so they're going to be coming, and they're just so lovely. I'm so excited.
No. Ooh, I'm sure a lot of the folks listening, whether they're on the mural side or on the fine art side, Um, you don't have to tell me. I know a lot of you hoard art supplies, okay? I see you. I know. I've seen a lot of your studios. I know, like me, you want to have all the brushes, all the paints, all the things. So just even knowing that the Zebra sisters are going and that they're going to bring extra goodies, I just can't. I just can't. I'm like, they just released, again, unpaid, by the way. I'm not sponsored, but like I just saw on their Instagram that they released like a muralist kit, for those people
Yes.
that have never tried them. And I'm like, genius. I
Yes.
mean, I wish I knew about it before I spent all the money. But anyways, that's a different story. Um, but also
I will add, I am fully unpaid and not like an actual, like I've never been paid by Zebra. I just do this because I'm
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
well, everybody and their mom needs to know about
They're
them.
so just such cool stuff. So anyway, so I'm like definitely very excited about that. And for any of our listeners that are curious, they have like this really cute reel. I think they have it pinned right now where they kind of have photos of their dad and when they started out and they were kids and kind of how they went from doing brushes that they were marketing towards folks that do like furniture renovations,
Mhm.
like they buy secondhand furniture and get it restored and stuff like that, and how they pivoted into murals. Like they
Mhm.
actually talk about that. So it's like super cool. But anyways, I feel like okay, that needs its own episode. It's all about supplies. I know, Jackie, you've asked me. We will eventually have a super mega nerdy episode all about supplies. Yeah, it's happening at some point. But I do want to ask Lauren, um, Rooted, how do you feel like it emphasizes the importance of collaboration over competition, and how can women muralists benefit from working together?
I think that women muralists can benefit working together because, like it's been said before here, again, there's so many hats. Listen, at the end of the day, when you became an artist, many of us, me included, even though I like the business side of things, I did not fully understand what I was getting myself into. And yes, you can piecemeal information here, there, wherever. But firstly, at the Rooted Conference, you're going to get information that is so needed, like the contracts we were talking about, like just transparent conversations about honestly the things that aren't always the most fun to talk about, but that give you this sense of like, okay, here's kind of the business side of things. Then you move into what's important, which is the heart. And having the community, having other people who are cheering you on, who are going to be there to answer the questions that you might be afraid to ask, or maybe don't even know to ask, it's going to level you up immediately to where you want to be going. And I think that knowledge is power. Information is so important. And especially as women, I think I also kind of came from that corporate background, right? Like you're paving and carving your way through, and there's not a lot of answers for you sometimes. So you have to be that person to get out there and get the answers yourself. Now, when you get a community of women artists who maybe have that background, a lot of us do, and then they go into a space where they're like, I know what I want and I want to create it. And then they're surrounded by other people who see you and say, there's space for everyone here. We can all create our version of success. what we want in this world. And when we come together, it's going to be more powerful, more impactful, more. It is like that goosebump feeling. It's that chill of there's so much out there for us. And I think that as we grow it and speak it into the universe and then get together and do it, it's only going to create a bigger heart that we all share. And then when we leave the conference, we can go and take that and run with it. And I just think that that's so beautiful. And as women, it's so important for us to know our worth and our value. And so for other women to be supporting that and giving you space to have those conversations, be transparent, be vulnerable, but then be lifted up by each other, it's just going to create a more colorful and beautiful world. And I think that that is like just a lovely kind of way to wrap it up is at the end of the day, art brings beauty into the world, and we all have the power to do that in our minds and in our hands. And I just can't wait to see what comes from it. Honestly, I think it's going to be a revolutionary kind of experience for all of us that we really needed and are really excited about.
Can I jump in? I want to say there's one very, very key factor that I have not addressed yet that was pivotal for me having the confidence and the faith to even envision muraling being a viable option for me to leave my career in the corporate world. And that is pay potential. That for me was essential for me to understand what is the pay potential. The only way to learn that is to have women who were vulnerable enough to talk about what they were making. And I'm sure they had to overcome like, does this come off like I'm bragging? Does this come across like I'm boasting? Like this is so cringe that I'm talking about what I'm making. Well, I don't care how they felt. I'm glad they did, because if it weren't for seeing many mural artists saying, I make six figures, I make six figures, I make six figures, I make six figures, I would not have been like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too. I want to, yes, Pander Design Co. in San Diego, they make like a ton at that point when it was full Phoebe and Roxy, and they're, making a post of like grossing 800,000. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not them. And then you see the Alley K's and you're like, okay, yeah, but both of them have been doing this for 10 years and they're wildly successful, but like, okay, can somebody not at their level make six figures? Or like, is this even possible? And so for me, it was seeing, because that's what I needed to hit. I needed to replace six figures. Like that, there was no like under six figures, like it needed to happen. And so for me to be able to build this argument and this case in my mind and for my husband and to put it all on paper and have a strategy of success, it had to be, what is the path to six figures? And so seeing that other people had done it was essential for me. And I mean, being able to have a space, I know there's women that think that is just insane and unachievable for them. And I want to say lies, wrong, inaccurate. It is possible. And so it's not secret sauce. There's nothing special. And so just being able to do that, I have two amazing quotes and I want to share. One is, it's a beautiful thing to want what other women have. It's a bad thing when we don't want them to have it.
Mm.
It is very okay to come to conference or to be part of the community or to be on Instagram and be like, wow, I want their success. That's actually what you need. Like I said earlier, you need the motivation. Literally slap some names up, like put the Alley K up, put the Pander up, for me, Rosemont Lane used to be one, like still is one of the ones that I looked at and was like, she is ahead of where I am. She knows how to level up. She's scaling. Look at this. She has a team. Okay, that was before I was at that place. Like you need to have that. So it's okay to want what other women have. It's just bad if you don't want them to have it too. So do that. The next quote, that one comes from Emily Ann Page. The second one comes from Lori Harder. And she says, be in the room with women whose realities are your dream.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know, like that's what Rooted Conference is. It's a place where you can be surrounded by women who are doing things that you want to do and aspire to do, but don't know if you have the confidence to do them. And you're surrounded by them because now you have the tools. Everything you have is either within, everything you need to be successful is either within you or within reach.
Mhm.
That's what Rooted does.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I think like just one more thing to add is that something Bethany and I talk about is seeing the other person as a human before like their work. There's so much value in that. And I think that we're all going to be showing up, right, with our brand colors and maybe like, oh, that's Rosemont Lane. But like if people can get to know Lauren behind the business and form a friendship and a connection and a bond, I think that that's really cool because you want to be seen and need to be seen, especially when you're reaching out for that connection.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. I can even just feel the energy, obviously, on this call, on this podcast episode. So I can only imagine magnetized by a dozen women, which is amazing. Now, you kind of touched on it just then, but what advice would each of you have for muralists who maybe are hesitant to take that next step and invest in their growth, whether it's attending the conference or just taking on bigger projects in general?
I would say none of us were ready or are ready, so just do it. Like in anything, the goal in muraling, or even if you're just a fine artist, the goal is always to get the bigger client, paint on a larger wall, paint on a higher surface, like always to do something you haven't done. Therefore, you are always going to be feeling uncomfortable and feel like you are, at the beginning again. So you don't have to be ready. You genuinely just have an I'll figure it out mindset and you'll be successful. And things are always going to feel uncomfortable. So just get used to it and start. Truly. But when it comes to like translating this into Rooted and, do I make this investment and I don't have a high profit margin and I don't know if I can afford this? The analogy and the visual I'll give is when I finally bit the bullet. And after I think, 8 months of being a full-time artist, full-time muralist, and being like, okay, I'm finally going to get the nice short throw projector. The $800 ticket item, I'm finally going to do it. Okay, it's time. Do you know that thing paid for itself in the first job? I'm not
Mhm.
kidding. I scheduled him. I had a projector, but like the awkward one where like you had to be really far away from the wall. So I was painting a nursery mural for this first job. And what normally with the old projector, I would have needed to align my throws 5 different times and perfectly measure or,
Wow.
match them up because of the wall and how far back I wasn't able to go. Literally did it in one projection. And I felt so awkward because I finished the mural, the whole mural in like 3 hours. And I told them like a day to a day and a half. And I'm like in the nursery with the door closed, thinking to myself, I just sit in the bathroom and eat lunch for a couple hours. Like, I don't like, I finished so fast because of this projector. So instead of having a full day or a day and a half job where I'd have to drive to and from multiple times, literally finished and was packed up within 4 hours, leaving, going like, I just paid for my projector.
Mhm.
And so that's what I want to say to those that are questioning if you can afford to come to Rooted. The answer is you can't afford not to, because what you're going to take away from it is truly going to instantly add value and impact to your business. One other quick example, I'm sorry, again, I told you brevity is not my thing, but I'm super passionate. You hit like the topic that I can talk literally 10 hours about. But this one goes back also to there's a woman in my life, a mural artist. We met on Instagram, ended up taking it out of the chat, met in an airport in Atlanta because I needed a mural artist assistant and didn't know any that were in Atlanta. She was in Baltimore. And I was like, can you meet me in Atlanta? I know we've never met in person and I don't know anything about you other than we just like really vibe on DMs, but Would you paint with me for a week and share a hotel room and share a rental car? And oh, by the way, all my jumpsuits, I have two of each size. So two of each color. Can we twin? Like legit, we just dove in. And I have a whole reel kind of talking about it. So you can go to the Rooted page. She's going to be the MC at the conference. And we are now like very, very dear friends. And she's flown to Texas multiple times to help me on things. All because of Instagram and just putting yourself out there. There's one particular job. It was a turning point for my career. And again, I just talked about it's essential to talk about money because it provides motivation for other people. My biggest job to this day was last August, and the total amount for that job was $60,000. One client. And I met the client, and they gave me a walkthrough of the facility, and they said, okay, the only catch is you would need to start in 2 weeks and you only have 3 weeks to finish it. No big deal. So I'm terrified because the amount of square footage that they're needing and the level of complexity they're wanting is absolutely insane. And so I'm putting together this extremely professional proposal. And in my mind, I don't know who else I'm competing against. I don't know if I'm competing against anyone, but the way I approach it is I'm going to be prepared to have a proposal that can stand next to Allie K's and still look legitimate and still be just as professional. So whether it's Allie K or no matter what it was, when I applied for my job, the one that I loved and was at for 5 years, I prepared for that interview, and you have to like do a presentation and everything. I prepared. I was like, I'm prepared to go head to head with Mark Zuckerberg. I don't care who's going to walk into that interview. I'm going to be able to get this job. And that's the mindset I take to this. And so I took that to this one. I'm like, I'm literally this is someone's annual salary in a 3-week period. I'm terrified of this. This is absolutely nerve-wracking. So this proposal needs to be legit, right? And so I sent it to my friend Caroline, and I put it together before I shared it with a client. And I'm like, please tear this apart. Like, I need your thought. I need your advice. And I think this is too much. But if I do all the math and everything, this is what it comes out to. So she calls me back after she reviewed it, and she goes, you're not charging enough. Oh, and I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, this is way too low. I don't feel comfortable. Like, I am not comfortable with you charging this amount for the amount of work. That is not okay. And I'm like, wait, what are you saying? So it turns out I didn't go back to my rate. I didn't like sell myself short. And then I found ways to basically ask for more, but put the ball in their court. So then instead of giving them one price, they had two options. I can meet your deadline, but that means I'm going to have to bring on assistants. And so then now there's a higher price per square foot, and I do price by square foot, but mine is like a very complicated, I have like a whole algorithm and system and levers that I move. So yes, I price by square foot because it's very easy, but there's a lot of factors that go into it. Figuring out the price is different for every job. That's my one disclaimer. Of course. I love pricing, figuring out stuff. So hit me up if you have a question. So I did have one option. I was like, okay, I can meet your deadline, but it's more expensive, or I cannot meet your deadline and it's cheaper. And they chose the more expensive option because they wanted it done in those 3 weeks. And so now I increased my base rate, and then they went for a rate that was even higher. And she, just by her feedback, made me probably $15,000.
Nice.
By increasing the rate.
Nice.
Now, I also asked her to, on that call, to fly to San Antonio in 4 days so that she could start the job with me, right? Like, so she ended up changing her clients, flying to San Antonio, painting that job with me for a whole week. But it was a 3-week job all day for those 3 weeks with a team. And it was fantastic. So all I say is, those are the kind of things, maybe right now you're afraid to charge what you're actually worth. And all it takes is this conference where now, instead of charging $20 a square foot, you have the confidence to be like, why on earth am I charging $20 a square foot? I should be charging 30. Now, every single job you go into, your profit margins just skyrocketed, and you paid for the Rooted conference in one job, just in the difference between your pricing tiers. So yeah, you can't afford not to.
Yeah, I think I'll simply add that every time I have invested into my business, I have received more than I expected on my return on investment. And that's not because of a dollar value, that's because you are finally putting in what it takes to become that next version of yourself. You have to take the actionable steps, whether you call it like, speaking it into the universe or manifesting. In reality, when you're putting a dollar amount and investing a dollar amount into your dream, it's going to only return to you tenfold. And so I think that honestly, the Rooted Conference, like from the background perspective, before I knew prices, I thought it was going to be valued. I thought it was going to be way higher because the value is so high from it. And I think that if you just go like in saying, okay, I need to book one job to return on investment on this, but then after you go to the conference and you realize all the good stuff you're going to gather, that probably booking one job is going to help you by like 10 times. Um, it just, all I'll say again is that every time I have invested into myself, into my business, I have seen so much come from that. And it's just the truth.
I love this so much. I'm like, literally, what you just said is exactly what I did. I was like, okay, I have this next mural, and if I get it, which of course I was like, please, please, please say yes, say yes, say yes. I was like, I will have enough money, not just for the mural, but also for the Rooted conference. And that's what I did. As soon as I got the money, I was like, setting this aside until the date that, that we can buy tickets. So no, thank you. Thank you for that advice, ladies. That's 100% on point, and hopefully it resonates with folks because I don't know, and this could be a whole nother conversation. So we are not going to dive in it. We're going to put a pin in it, but I would like to say I think there's also this idea of our value as women and whether we deserve certain things, especially like higher ticket things. Again, depends on everybody's background, but I feel like there's a cultural thing that's kind of tied to it. And I think it's important to recognize if we want to level up in our own businesses, we have to invest in it just like everybody else, just like a quote unquote regular business would. Not just about the art, you know how it is. But speaking of growing our businesses, next up, we love to ask our guests how they define success. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. But first, we're going to put a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by our Level Up Artists podcast supporters.
If you have gotten value out of listening to our podcast, please consider becoming a supporter for $4 a month. This podcast is our way of sharing it forward, and we get so much value out of these conversations ourselves, but producing a podcast isn't free.
We have personally invested in podcast equipment and video editing software, as well as dedicate our time to produce, edit, and distribute a new episode every week.
By becoming a podcast supporter, you will help us keep the podcast running smoothly and get access to amazing off-the-record conversations with seasoned artists, authors, art collectors, gallery and museum professionals, as well as industry leaders. These conversations offer even more valuable advice for artists at various stages of their career.
You also get access to our artist community platform and our gratitude for keeping the podcast going. Head on over to levelupartisthub.com to sign up and become a podcast supporter today.
Welcome back, everybody. So, question we love to ask all our guests is, how do you define success? In this case, let's go with as an art professional.
Overall success, I believe, is measured very differently for everyone. And so that's like, at least with Rooted, it's not about helping you get to become a successful person or like to get to this certain level. Truly is, what's your current situation and how can we help you get to your desired situation? So it's going to be different for everyone. For me, I want to be a CEO. That has always been my goal. Never thought I'd be a CEO of my own company, like building it from scratch. That is so cool how that worked out. So I have a lot of goals that I want to hit, and it's, for me, I've already become successful in how I define that, but I'm never complacent. So I'm always pushing myself, almost like too much, where I don't always celebrate the small wins. But making more money than I used to make in the corporate world, for me is always a motivator. It's not like, oh, I want to make a lot of money so I can buy like elaborate things. It's truly changing my family's financial future. And that's really important. to me. So I know money doesn't motivate everybody, but at the same time, like just being able to have financial freedom and have the savings and have investments and have things that are going to where I'm building that retirement plan as a self-employed person. So I think having a better mindset for some people, or like, don't just generically say you're not motivated by money. Like thinking that that means you have to frivolously spend the money you make, right? So for me, success is being able to set my family up for success financially and be able to contribute to that alongside my husband. And then my daughters are seeing me build something from scratch, and they're proud, and it's opened up their eyes to work ethic and following your dream. But that comes with, you have to have a good education in order to do that sometimes, or like put yourself around people that put yourself in rooms where knowledge exists and absorb the knowledge, whether that's a university or whether that's trade or whether that's just around mentors. Be a sponge. So
Oh, I love that. And it's
yeah,
like
always
both of
always
you,
be.
yeah, both you and Lauren, you're both giving your kids kind of like that insight, the behind the scenes of the business, and also giving them that, basically letting them know a creative career is a choice. A self-employed creative career is a choice. It's not
Mhm.
just, oh, if you're an artist, you're gonna starve. You have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor. It's like, no, you can be a self-employed creative entrepreneur. Like
Yeah,
that is an actual choice. And this is how your mother has put this
yeah,
together. And like this, and yes, it's not all rainbows and unicorns all the time. There's stressful parts of it for sure. But like it is a choice,
yeah.
whether, which I feel like a lot of people grow up not knowing, just like you mentioned earlier. And I don't know about you, Lauren, if that was the case. It was for me, and I think it was for Jackie. We didn't know mural was a choice or artist was a career, like a career choice,
Mhm.
not just something you do on the side.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely relate to that. I think what's cool is same like my version of success I have achieved, which was I wanted to have a flexible, semi-part-time job so that one day I could become a mother and create my own schedule. And here I am, my son's gonna turn 1 the day before Halloween, and it has been a wild, wild journey that I cannot wait to divulge in our little subgroup of motherhood and murals into about like my experience, advice, all of that. Anyways, we'll put a pin in that one. But I think that like success to me now that I'm rewriting this story of, okay, achieved, and now what, is kind of really finding that balance between overall seeing myself as a human and not just a workhorse. Because I think someone who has a work ethic like myself, I can get really lost in that hustle phase. And I've really designed my life now that when I'm logged into my business hours, I'm hustling and I'm there, and I can compartmentalize it so that when I'm logging into my motherhood hours, I'm not going to be worried as much. And I think that that is really beautiful that that can evolve. And I think overall success for anyone should be, especially as an artist, like learning that business really does reflect life, which is that there's seasons. And I think that we can all give ourselves a little bit more grace in terms of success being something that is linear for potentially the span of a lifetime. And then we have those little chunks where like we can encourage ourselves to celebrate those little moments, those little notches, or carve out those little notches. And do you like that Bethany and I only talk in analogy? We carve out those little notches
It's
in that
just the way our brains work. Welcome,
map,
creative.
It's a
right?
creative thing.
We're in good company.
But like I think that success is going to be ever flowing and ever changing, and being able to just be comfortable on that ride. That's where I'll land it. Being able to be comfortable on that ride of success and season and up and down and life, and just like kind of take a step back to be humble and grateful and appreciative of where you are. I think that, again, motherhood has really changed me a lot as a person, but I have so much gratitude for being in the driver's seat and being able to wake up every day and be like, I'm in charge. This is my future. This is my success. This is my story. And it's just, I'm just very grateful for it. And I think it's really beautiful. And to be involved in the community as a whole feels even more exciting.
So exciting. And you're definitely in company of people who love analogies. We reference them very similarly a lot on the podcast. In similar vein, one that I reference all the time, kind of similar to your like mountains and peaks that you mentioned earlier, was if you're gonna choose to climb the ladder, make sure it's leaned up against the right wall. Because I think especially as a fellow type A workaholic who really prides yourself on my work ethic, it's one of those, well, okay, well, are you building a life that you actually want to live? And understanding that holistic, especially the possibilities as an artist. You can be a muralist, you can be someone who focuses on art markets, you can focus on gallery representation. Like any of these are possibilities, but will it really result in the life and the lifestyle that you want? And then being able to reverse engineer it from there. Because honestly, it really doesn't do you much good if you get to the top of your ladder and you're like, great, I'm successful. And then you're like, I actually really don't want to be at the top of this wall. I kind of wanted to be over there. How did I get here? And you have to climb back down and start again. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that if you're asking yourself this question, listening to this podcast, like what is my version of success? I highly recommend starting to journal, just being really open with yourself and honest about what you want, and then looking at that and saying, okay, what are the small steps and then the bigger steps and all of that to achieve that goal.
And look at the women around you that have their lives and see like which one and which variation really attracts you. Truly. Like, which one is it? Which one inspires you? Which one are you keep on going back to and you're like, that looks amazing. You know, again, surround yourself with women. Like you need it to be where their reality is your dream.
Absolutely. And like finding clarity in the noise too, because especially if you're a younger artist or honestly just in life, everyone has a lot of opinions on what they think other people should be doing. And so it's for those like take advice from people whose life you admire. Where like everyone thinks they're giving you good advice because that's advice that works for them. But if you don't want their life, if you don't want to be sitting in a corporate job in a cubicle for 40 hours a week, then why would you take advice from someone who is doing that? You know?
Yeah, I'd much rather be in my home office for 90 hours a week.
Exactly. Hanging out with a podcast, talking to fellow creative business owners. We love it. Now, real quick before we wrap up, Bethany, what is one piece of advice you wish you had heard before you got started on your creative journey? I know we've dropped a lot of
it piggybacks off of the last question that we just talked about, but you don't have to be like everyone else to be successful, and your path doesn't have to be something that you've seen somebody do. Real quick on like my personal journey, the very first college professor I had going into art school, freshman year of college, I'm 18 years old, and the professor took it to a whole nother level of what critiques meant in front of the whole class. And he took it to let me completely destroy Bethany. And it wasn't just me, but it definitely was me. And said, Bethany, if you do not marry someone with money or change your career field, you will starve.
The audacity.
In front of the whole class.
Next level. That's next level.
Yes.
We should call him after this.
I've been, his name's Kent Rush. So if anybody knows a Kent Rush, please let me know. I would like to leave. I would like to leave my balance sheets and profit and loss statements on his doorstep. Just kidding.
We'll find him on LinkedIn and send him this episode. Like, I should be interested.
But he was the director of the art department for the college. So that set the tone for why I didn't touch paintbrush for almost 8 years. And I was like, okay, well, as an overachiever, I am going to just put my head down and I'm going to get A's and I'm going to do what's required of me to get a good assignment, but I'm not going to take risks. I'm not going to learn what my style is. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to learn how to express myself in art school, because if I try to do that, then it doesn't work. So I'm just going to play it safe. And that, I believe, is why after my 7 to 8 year break in art, I literally started doing some stuff like small during COVID. And my husband's like, who knew me in my college days, saw the art I'd created in college, and then now was seeing me, 8 years later. He's like, how did you take a break for 8 years and get better?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just expressing what came out of me rather than trying to create something that can't rush and the others would give me an A for. And so you don't have to create something to be successful. Like I said, I am very analytical. I'm not artsy from the standpoint of I love blank canvases so I can express myself artistically. I do not like that. I actually love the business side of it. I love being strategic. And if I only had the business side of my operations, I would be very, very, very happy. That would be success for me. So I think it would have been really nice to know that I can be a creative businesswoman.
Mm-hmm.
I can be a businesswoman running a creative business. I can be, I can think, well, in business, creativity is called innovation. And so I was very, very innovative in my corporate jobs, and everybody loved the out of the box thinking. So just being told like, hey, you don't have to close the door on creativity and being artistic just because you don't want to be represented by a gallery, or you don't want to spend time, in your studio all day, every day by yourself. I'm an extrovert, if you can't tell. And it just would have been nice to know that like your path can be whatever you make it. And so now I'm living in my strengths. I'm living in my zone of genius. I'm living in the things that fulfill me and that I love. And that's the path I have created.
Preach. That's all I have to say to that. Like, wow. Oh gosh, I love that so much. Real quick, Bethany, if somebody randomly handed you $100, what would you splurge on or invest in? It has to be something that brings you joy and relates to your art or business.
Art prints. I am putting together my new home office, and I'm going to have a massive gallery wall behind my desk that is just filled with female mural artists and their art prints. And so I am beginning to build that collection. Yeah,
Nice.
it's
I
been
love
really
it. Reinvesting in other artists is
absolutely.
answers.
I love it.
Yeah. Now, for both of you, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Real quick before we say goodbye to you all, in addition to, of course, the Rooted Conference, what exciting projects do you have coming up that listeners should know about?
I'm painting a mural for Dunkin' Donuts this week, so that's kind of cool.
Very
But honestly, I'm fully consumed with Rooted, and we haven't even talked about this because all we've talked about is conference. However, conference is just the fun, flashy, amazing in-person experience that we're going to have every single year for 2 days. But what Rooted also provides is an online community. And so we have a very robust, formal online community platform that is extremely well organized. We have outside speakers that come into the conference via Zoom and speak. So it is just an extension of conference, and it's actually already up and running. We've already had outside speakers. We have more lined up. We have a call this week that's internal for all of the women that have a ticket. So once you buy a ticket to conference, you instantly get access to the community. And the first year of membership in the community is free when you buy a conference ticket for 2025. And so now you're getting like double the value for one price ticket, and all members going forward are going to get amazing discounts on future conferences and things like that. But it doesn't have to end on this 2 day amazing, experience. It's actually something that will continue to give that accountability and that mentorship and the community of support that you need for 365 days. And so that's what we're already executing. I'm already in there all the time. Everybody who's the next, I think we have 14 more spots available. So the next 14 people that buy a ticket at the time that we're doing this, they're getting free business strategy coaching call with me as well. So I've been doing a lot of coaching calls. I've been really just diving into the women that already have tickets. So we're very excited, and that's where all of my time is going. Primarily, that's my big project.
Very exciting, very exciting. And so for our listeners, if they want to learn more about that, they can head over to, at the time of this recording, it's riverbankartstudio.com/rooted to hear more
Yes.
about all the exciting projects that you have going on.
Yeah.
And Bethany and Lauren, how can our listeners stay in contact with you after they listen to today's episode?
I am on Instagram with my personal muraling page at Riverbank Art Studio. And then you can just head over to Instagram, Rooted Muralists, for everything about conference in the community. So Lauren is going to be, running point on our social media and everything from, October, November, and on. So we're super excited. We're going to have virtual tickets as well. So if you can't make it in person, there's going to be a virtual ticket, and those are unlimited. So no excuse. It's going to be awesome. We hope to see you.
Yeah, you'll be seeing me a lot on Rooted Muralist Instagram and in the community as well once all of you guys get in there. And then personally at Rosemont Lane on Instagram, you'll see me over there as well.
Perfect. Well, we're going to link all these goodies in the show notes. Thank you so much, both of you, for being with us today.
Thank you.
This is amazing.
Well, in the meantime, for our listeners, if you want to stay connected with us in between episodes, share your feedback, or have a question you would like for us to answer on the podcast, you can reach us through social media. I'm at Mayart across all platforms.
And I'm at J Sanders Studio on all platforms. And if you want to follow the podcast, we are at Level Up Artists on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.